Hey guys, Tylord here with the games I completed or beat in 2021. I do a video like this every year. I've been doing it for the past 3 or 4 years. It's one of the videos I enjoy making. I like to share the games I've completed throughout the year, not to show off, although I am pretty awesome with my Jaws poster and my safety glasses and my turtleneck and my stubble. This is more just to share the games I enjoyed this year. Usually I don't beat a game unless I enjoy it. And I have quite a few games here I beat this year. Want to share them. I like watching videos like this as well. I watched one from CM Retro. I think I watched one from BioPhoenix. Has a really good one. It's been a year basically since some of the games, so they're not super fresh in my mind, but I have quite a bit to say about a lot of them, so I'll get to them right now. First one I beat in January 7th for the Super Nintendo by way of the Nintendo Switch online service with the SNES games. Was Tough Enough. Really simple fighting game. I am including fighting games on here, and this is going to be most of the list. Most of the games I beat this year were fighting games and beat 'em ups. Those are my favorite, two of my favorite genres, and also they don't take a lot of time to beat, but a lot of them are very hard, very difficult. I am proud of some of the games I beat this year. Tough Enough's not really one of them. It was a pretty easy game to beat, a pretty simple fighting game. It's one I always passed over at the video store. I was not interested in that. I was more about Street Fighter and the SNK game, or the Takara / SNK games for the time, and Mortal Kombat, stuff like that. I wasn't quite interested in Tough Enough. It's a Jalico game, but actually after playing it on the Switch, it actually has pretty good value. It plays pretty good, a lot better than I thought it would be. Basic Street Fighter movements, back is block, special moves. I think it only has 4 attack buttons, but you can get the job done with that. You can do combos. It has an instant replay mode, which is weird for that type of game. And it's post-apocalyptic, so I do like that. It sort of has like a Fist of the North Star type vibe, or it's kind of like post-apocalyptic. It has that nice NES look. It has that, kind of reminds me of that classic SNES look that you think of with like RPGs. It's a nice looking game to me, at least, and I enjoyed it. So Tough Enough was the first one off my list out of the 19 games I beat in 2021. Second one I'm really proud of, or that I actually spent time on a game like that this year, is Sinking City. And once again, I beat that on the Switch. It was on sale for 20 bucks. It's usually 60 bucks. I got the complete version, I think, for 15 or 20 bucks when it was on sale. I would hold off. I would definitely pick it up either on PS4, Xbox One, or Switch. I like having the Switch so I can play it portably. I have a lot more time to do it like that. But Sinking City is an excellent open world horror game. It's an open world detective horror game. It's sort of in the style of Fallout, or those big Bethesda games like Fallout or the Elder Scrolls, but it's set in the 1940s on the East Coast in a city that has been halfway submerged. There's some kind of evil supernatural force going on. It's set in the H.P. Lovecraft universe, so there's a lot of lore from the H.P. Lovecraft short stories. It's basically like a sequel to what was that other game on the old Xbox? Dark Corners of the Earth. It pretty much feels like a direct sequel to that game, so I really enjoyed it. The atmosphere, they nailed it. It's that East Coast 1940s. Everything looks nice. It's a big open world game. It's all through in this city that's halfway sunk. So some roads you have to take boats to get down the streets. The streets are flooded. Some roads you just go by foot. There's all kinds of side missions. There's all kinds of detective work. it doesn't really hold your hand with the detective work. Like, you have to go really dig up research. You have to either go to the police department, the city hall, the hospital, or the library to dig up clues or dig up information, resources for your cases. There's the main quest and many side quests. All the side quests sort of play into H.P. Lovecraft writings. I'm pretty sure there's an Easter egg to every single H.P. Lovecraft work in Sinking City, and it's an excellent game. I think, and I don't think it's a AAA game. I'm not sure or not. I think the publishers were fairly independent, and I think there was some kind of controversy with the release, and I think the game's hard to find digitally now, but I'm pretty sure it's still on Switch. But I highly recommend that game if you're into stuff like Fallout. There's multiple dialogue choices. Just, it really feels like a Fallout game. It really took me back to the 2000s when I used to have time to play games. I'd play stuff like Fallout or Mass Effect, and it's set in the H.P. Lovecraft universe. It's third-person shooter. It's really scary. It starts off hard. You don't have many weapons. You do a lot of detective work. It's sort of like that game. What was it? It actually kind of feels like L.A. Noire. That's what it is. It feels like a really good detective game. It has the same detective mechanics as some other games I've played. I know it's like the new Call of Cthulhu game, where you kind of the guy kind of has a psychic power and he can see events that happened, like ghostly apparitions in a certain order, and you have to place the order of the events together to see how the crime scene went out. I know it's similar. I know they've used that a lot in many other games, but I can't put my finger on them right now. And then the gunplay's fine. You can do hack and slash. You have hand weapons, but mostly you want to use the guns. But you kind of want to conserve your ammo because a lot of the enemies are really hard. It's really scary at the beginning. There's really scary dark areas, abandoned houses that are half sunken in the ocean, with all kinds of scary creatures in there. It's really unsettling. But I found a good area to grind XP, so I turned into a smashing machine at the end of the game. You can set up little traps. It has like a little system where you can combine items to make better items. I can't think of the word right now. Anyway, Sinking City, highly recommend that game. I think that was referred to me by Toro Loco from Fancy Action Now, and I'm glad I played it. So Sinking City, I beat that in February 14th, 2021. That was the second game. So the third game I beat, I was really getting into the N64. I had it hooked up for half of the year in the living room on the Trinitron that Dean from Escapes the Gaming gave me before he moved up to Idaho. But I was playing a lot of N64 on that. I was kind of getting back into N64 and seeing what all the fuss was. In my mind, I was thinking the selection's not as great as PlayStation 1, which it's not. But I have been discovering there are a lot more better games than I originally thought. I thought maybe there was just a handful of games I would care about, but there are a lot more. So starting in February 25th, I beat this game on my N64, Fighter's Destiny. Got the cartridge of that. Pretty simple game, but fun. It sort of has like a point system, kind of like a martial art tournament. Like you can win with so many points landed or a throw, kind of like judo. It's a 3D game. It played pretty well. I had an enjoyable time playing it. I enjoy myself playing this game, so I would recommend it if you like fighting games from that era. I wouldn't spend too much on it. I think I got this for $5 or $10, and it was worth it to me. It had a little selection of different type of fighters. That's probably one of the more forgettable games I played this year, but I did enjoy it. I kind of want to play the second one. I hear the second one's more of a conventional type fighting game like Tekken. This one plays sort of like Tekken or Virtua Fighter, but it's kind of that point system. Like there's not really health. It's just like you have to score so many points during the match, which is cool. But I think the second one's more of a conventional type fighting game. Okay, the fourth game I beat February 20th, and this is the second one I'm really proud of that I beat This is not just a fighting game. This is a long action adventure RPG. Anyway, a hybrid heaven for N64. I've been wanting to play through this for years. Back when I was younger, I started. I thought it looked cool, but I couldn't get into that turn-based crap. Since I've gotten older and more patient, I come to appreciate turn-based games. I'm playing through Dragon Quest VIII right now, actually, on PlayStation 2, but now that I have the patience for these turn-based things, I really enjoyed this. Now that I realize the grinding method, you got to grind to get powerful to go on to another dungeon or whatever. This is really good. It's a Konami game. It's a high-budget AAA game for the time. I think it was originally developed to be a Metal Gear game for the PlayStation or for the N64, but I don't know what happened, but it ended up being its own unique series, or its own unique game. There's no series. It's the only game in the series. I think this is the only way it was ever released. But it is a really, really fun adventure, sci-fi, action RPG fighting game. I say fighting game because you play through this game as an adventure, sort of like a Metal Gear game. There's a lot of deep subterranean facilities in here, a lot of sneaking around. It kind of feels like Metal Gear. A lot of shooting out security cams and stuff like that. But every time you run into an enemy on this game, it goes to a fighting game sort of, but it's a turn-based system. But you're actually moving around in real time. It actually has a really cool style of play that I've never seen before in a game. So basically, when you encounter an enemy, you fight. They're always monsters or robots or security guards or whatever. You start in your stance, and it's sort of in a fighting type ring, and it's not really 2D. It's really 3D, and you can circle around the ring and get in closer or get back farther. The guy can kind of back you into the wall, or you can be aggressive, or you can stand back. But you have this meter that fills up, and it's your attack meter. Once it's full, you can throw a punch, but you got to place your punches. You can't be far away. You have to come up to the right angle, and maybe like come up to the side and do like a hook or whatever punch, or you can grapple when you get in. But and then the other guy can attack, and you can choose to defend when they attack, and it depends on what position you're in or how much experience you have. You can parry or reverse the attack or dodge it. There's all kinds of different options. It plays in real time. It gets kind of intense, but you fight in this little. Every time it's sort of like a random encounter. You fight in this little ring against the enemies you encounter, and it's always one-on-one. And the more that meter builds up, like you can let the meter build up like 3 times, kind of like the special meter in the Street Fighter games. If you have 2 meters, you can select to do 2 moves. So you could, if you just have the meter built up once, you could do like one attack. So you could throw a jab. If you let the meter fill up twice, like you move around and avoid the guy enough not for him to attack you, you could do 2. So you could do like 1-2, or a punch, kick. There's all kinds of moves to select. You can select like jab, right, straight, left hook, left, right hook. You can do low roundhouse kick, medium roundhouse kick, high roundhouse kick on the right side. You can do the same on the left side. There's all kinds of moves to select from. So you could throw in combos, like if you have your meter filled up 3 times, you could do like left, right, left hook or whatever, or throw a kick in. Or you could even do grappling moves, like you could toss them down. If you still have another meter, you could do like a submission hold or a ground attack. It's a lot of stuff you can do in this game. That's really unique. I thought it was really fun. And the more you use a move, like I kept using the right roundhouse kick because it seems like a powerful kick. I kept using that one, so that move got stronger. The more I used it, it got really powerful. So I tried to mix it up and use other moves too, so they're all powerful. But I guess you could just keep using the same move. And then eventually you gain more moves, so you can gain more attacks. Like you get all kinds of WWF type moves or judo moves, all kinds of throws. My favorite one towards the end was the pile driver. You could do like a WWF style pile driver and then get him in a camel clutch or a Boston crab. It's such a crazy game. all these wrestling moves in this sci-fi type Metal Gear type game. Really seems out of place, but I enjoyed it. And then there are some bosses you fight in real time with your gun. Most of the time you just fight one-on-one turn battle fights, which is really fun. I think I ranked like SS ranking on 95% of the fights I had, so I don't know if I was really good at it or just really easy game. I played it on normal. And then it has a cool story, sort of like aliens coming down to Earth and teaming up with humans, and some of them are trying to take over the world, and they're trying to replace the leaders with clones. It's a goofy story, but it's a fun game. Anyway, I've been babbling about this for a while. Hybrid Heaven. I had the guide for this too, but I didn't end up using it. And it's a Christmas game, so this is in my list of favorite Christmas games. It's set during Christmas. Okay. Okay, the next one I beat on February 25th. I'm proud of this one too because it's hard and I can never beat it before. Another N64 game, Fighting Force 64. I never beaten this on anything, this or PS2. I guess the PS2 one is better, it has better sound and all this, and this one came out later on. But I had a good time with this. 3D, typical 3D beat 'em up game. I think this was originally developed to be Streets of Rage 3. It's an IDOS game. Crave Interactive made it. It's an IDOS game, or EDOS, however you say it. But it's a high production value, fun game. Typical Streets of Rage stuff, like there's the average dude, average size, average build, speed, strength, and then there's like a big muscly dude that's kind of like a tank, like a wrestler. And then there's a girl that's fast, kind of like Blaze on Streets of Rage. Then there's another girl on top of that, so you can choose from 4 characters. You fight throughout the streets and facilities. So it really has that Streets of Rage feel. You fight through office buildings and all that. I highly enjoyed it. I found a little exploit though that let me beat it, the dive roll. If you're gonna play this game, utilize the dive roll if you're in trouble, if your health's running low. Because there's a couple frames of invincibility when you do the dive roll that kind of takes out the enemies. It doesn't take off a lot of health, but you can kind of keep spamming that dive roll back and forth to stay safe and gradually deplete your enemy's health. And it has some cool boss fights too. Fighting Force 64. That one was kind of difficult for me to beat. February 28th, not much later than that. The last N64 game I beat this year was Clay Fighter 63 1/3. This is just the standard edition. It's not the sculptor's cut that's worth a lot of money. And I had never played through the arcade mode on this. My brother and I used to play the 2-player mode, and we got a kick out of it. We thought it was funny. But I never played through the arcade mode to beat it. And for playing this game, it surprised me how smooth this is. I was a fan of the first game on Super Nintendo, but it felt kind of clunky to me at the time, although I enjoyed it. This one kind of felt smoother. Like, from playing Street Fighter a lot with my friends, this kind of feels closer to the level of Street Fighter. Like, you can do combos and the moves are easier to pull off. So it's pretty fun. It has Earthworm Jim in here as a guest character. I wonder if this is the first fighting game that had guest characters from other franchises. I'm wondering. And then moving on, the only PlayStation 1 game I beat this year was King of Fighters 99 fighting game. I think Lucky Collector sent me this one. Highly appreciative. We did a little trade. He sent me a lot of nice PlayStation 1 games. I need to get through a lot more of those. And I was thinking I had played this one before, but it might have been 98. But man, these bosses are always so difficult. But I finally beat the last guy, Arugel. Cool game. I like the music and the look of these King of Fighter games. I don't really have much more to say about that. Recommend any of those King of Fighters. Okay, next one I downloaded off of the Switch again, off of the shop. This game I had never heard of, but I saw something about it online and I knew it was for me. It's called Shaolin vs. Wu Tang is the name of the game on Switch, and that's a 2D fighting game with 3D graphics. I guess it's an independent game. I think maybe only like 1 or 2 guys worked on it, but you could tell they had a lot of passion for the source material. Well, what Shaolin versus Wu Tang is like an homage to all of the 70s kung fu movies, like from Hong Kong, and some Japanese martial art movies, and even American 70s and 80s martial art movies. So I highly enjoyed that. It really was right up my alley. A lot of Shaw Brothers stuff in there. Personally, I'm not the biggest Shaw Brothers fan. I need to get into those movies more, like the older, silly kung fu movies. Only ones I've ever really seen are the 36 Chambers movies, which I really like. And I did notice in this game there's a Gordon Liu type character. And there's so there's the likeness of all of these martial art guys in this game, but they're not actually them. They probably can't afford to pay them or whatever, but I'm telling you, all the guys in here, there's a Bruce Lee, there's a Jet Li, there's a Donnie Yen, there's a Gordon Liu, there's a Sho Kosugi, there's a Sonny Chiba, there's a Jean-Claude Van Damme, there's a Jim Kelly, there's a Bolo Young. All these guys from these old Shaw Brothers movies and all these old kung fu movies, a lot of them, I don't remember their names, but they all are based on an actual martial art movie action star, which is cool. But the fighting game itself is really good. It feels really smooth, and you can do a lot of combos. I think there's a leg attack, or a kick attack, a punch attack, and a weapon attack. Each character has their own weapon. I think there's a special attack, and then you can do special moves like Street Fighter, like quarter circle type moves, and do combos. So it's a fun game. I thought it played very well. I think I beat it with every character. I was having a good time with it, and the music is so good. Like, it's some of that like funky 70s music or old school like orchestral stuff you would hear like in those old movies. Like, it really has like a 70s feel. So Shaolin versus Wu Tang, you gotta play that if you like martial art movies like I do. Did I say there's a Chuck Norris in there too? Yeah. Yeah, it's just crazy how accurate they have the look and feel of that game. March 31st, finally, I'm really proud of this one too. Finally, after 20 years, I could finally beat this game. Art of Fighting 2, which I played on my anthology, my Art of Fighting anthology for PS2. I highly recommend these anthology packs for PS2 for the SNK games. There's some Fatal Fury ones, there's a World Heroes one, there's Samurai Showdown, Art of Fighting. These are excellent, probably the best way you can ever play these games. Arcade perfect, and then you can choose to have the updated music, like the recomposed music. It sounds awesome. But this has Art of Fighting 1, 2, and 3. But I could always beat 1. 1's very difficult, and I'm getting to where I can almost beat 1 on very hard with 1 credit, but it's just too hard with Mr. Big. I can't figure out his pattern. Like, he's too hard. And then Art of Fighting 3, that one I could do. I think I even 1 credited Art of Fighting 3 before, but Art of Fighting 2 is just ridiculous to me. Like, it's hard to beat 1 guy on this game. They're just so difficult, and they read you so well, and you have to be so fast. But I finally beat it. It took me, like, I had to continue like 100 times, but I finally beat Art of Fighting 2. I beat it with King, that little girl that has like the dress suit on, like kind of like a boy would wear. King, she was like a Muay Thai fighter. I don't know if you're familiar with the Art of Fighting series, but King is the one I beat it with, and you pretty much. I never complain about having sore thumbs when I play video games, but I actually was wearing out my thumb playing this game to beat it. I don't know if I know there are people out there who could probably 1 credit this, but this is so freaking difficult. I guess you just have to know the right pattern as anything else, but I'm not fast enough to do that. It took me forever to beat this, but I finally did, and I'm so happy. So I can say I finally beat every Art of Fighting game there is. Amen. And then I guess February 7th, I beat this game legitimately. Capcom VS SNK 2 EO, which is awesome. I've always liked this game, but I never beat the real way. I never beat Shin Rugal. I think you have to go through the game without losing a round. So I finally got to him and beat him, which was cool. And that, man, I can't say how much I love this game. Like two of my favorite fighting game series combined, Fatal Fury and Street Fighter. There's other games in here first, all Capcom. Oh, and Art of Fighting characters. Art of Fighting is actually part of the Fatal Fury series. They're connected, but I guess I kind of consider them one series. But all those guys fighting all your favorite Street Fighter characters seamlessly. So wonderful game. So finally beat that one. Don't have really much more to say about that other than. Okay, so on to my Super Nintendo games I beat this year. Mostly all beat 'em up games. I played quite a few beat 'em up games this year, and those are really hard. I'm not embarrassed to say I beat those because they don't have unlimited continues like fighting games. So I'm proud to say I beat these games. May 28th, I finally can say I beat a Final Fight game legitimately without unlimited continues on the arcade mode or the arcade version. I beat Final Fight on SNES, and man, I'm really happy with myself for beating this. It was a struggle, especially the Bay Area level. That last boss, Abigail, the second to the last boss, is so difficult. That big dude that picks you up and throws you. But yeah, dude, I'm so glad I beat this. It was a struggle, a Final Fight. And I actually kind of like this game now. I always hated on this because it didn't have 2-player and Guy wasn't on it, and they changed a lot of things about it. But if you get down to the game, it plays really good. It doesn't have as many on-screen enemies, but it's very difficult. And it looks really good too. Like I'm pleased with it. I actually enjoy this version. I don't have anything bad to say about it. Once you get to the last level, though, it's not as bad as the Bay Area level. The last, the tower, the last boss, Belger, is way easier than Abigail on this. Once I got past that Bay Area level, the first time I got to the last level, I beat it. But man, this was a struggle, but I'm glad I finally beat it. I don't know if I can beat it anymore because it's been a few months, but man, I beat it 4 or 5 times. But I highly enjoyed that game, Final Fight, and I'm glad to say I can finally beat the version legitimately without unlimited continues. And then a couple days later, May 31st, I don't have the cartridge. I played it by way of emulation on my PC. And I didn't use save states. I did it legitimately. Was Final Fight 2. And that one probably looks even better, and you can do 2-player. Yeah, and it kind of takes it outside of Metro City. You go all over the world and fight. Like you fight in England and France and Japan and Holland, to name a few. So it kind of has a variety of scenery, but a lot of the same bosses from the first game, or from the enemies, excuse me. So it was a cool game. Part 2, I beat it with Hagar. All 4 of them I beat with, or all 3 of them I beat with Hagar. Yeah, so Part 2 is really cool, and you can do 2-player. I kind of hoping they release these games on that Switch service, so I can just play them all, and maybe play them online with friends on the Switch service. I don't think Final Fight 2 is as good as Streets of Rage 2, but it's pretty darn good. And then moving on from there is Final Fight 3. I beat June 1st. And I have the repro of that. And I ordered this because I like the game so much. This might be my favorite one of the NES bunch. Final Fight 3. And this is the first time I played it, and I beat it the first time I played it. So it's probably the easiest. I was able to beat it on the hardest setting with 1 credit, I think. You can take shortcuts. There's multiple routes to take. Sort of like, I forgot to mention in Fighting Force 64, you can take alternate paths, little secret paths. Anyway, this one's awesome. It goes back to, it's exclusively in Metro City, I believe. And it's 2 players, and you can choose from 4 characters this time. And Guy is back. There's no Cody, unfortunately. There's some other weird guy with like electric fists that I don't ever play as, but it has Guy and Hagar, 2 of the favorites, and then that new character Lucia, who's actually in the new Street Fighter V. She's in here. I like her a lot. She's based on Cynthia Rothrock, so I got to play through the game with her. She looks a lot like Cynthia Rothrock, and yeah, but I beat it with Guy, Lucia, and Hagar on this, and I was able to beat it on hardest, even with 1 credit. yeah, but this is a fun game, and the music in here is the best. I think Final Fight CD still has the best Final Fight music of any Final Fight, but this has some really cool tunes. Like, I was actually getting into the music in here. A couple of the tracks I really like. I was looking online to see if people had like done covers to some of these, because there's some really cool little tracks of music in this game. Anyway, so Final Fight 3, highly recommend that one. And then the next one I beat by way of emulator, and I kind of want to get a repro of this game now, is Captain Commando for SNES. I beat that July 10th. Captain Commando. I think it's actually supposed to be set in the Final Fight universe, like 50 years in the future or whatever. So it's a kooky game. It's got aliens and robots and monsters and superheroes, and you fight through many different weird locations. It's a kooky game. I really enjoy it. It kind of feels like Ninja Turtles. Like, there's so much weird stuff going on, like the Ninja Turtles arcade game. Sort of that style of game, but I like it because it's set in the Final Fight universe, even though there's no characters. I guess it's supposed to be in the future from Metro City. I think there's even a little Easter egg at the end where it kind of looks like the president might be Mike Hagar. Typical Final Fight style. The only thing I noticed that was different from the arcade is you couldn't get in the machines. Like, there were mechs and stuff you could pilot, kind of like the dinosaurs on Golden Axe. They didn't have those on this, and there might not have been as many characters on screen. Other than that, it looked really good. The color might be a little different, but it plays good, looks good. It has that perfect. I love that style of beat 'em up that Final Fight and our Streets of Rage and Final Fight has. It. If you know how to play those, you'll be at home with Captain Commando. So highly recommend Captain Commando. I think you can get the arcade version in compilations now, or download it. But the Nintendo or the Super Nintendo one's really good too. And then moving on to July 11th, I beat that with emulation too. No save states though. Was a Mighty Final Fight on NES. Man, I want to get that game now because I really like it, but it's expensive. That's like one of the most expensive sought after NES games, so I might get a repro of it to play on my CRT with the real hardware. I played it by way of emulation on my laptop with a Super Nintendo USB controller I have. I've been using the heck out of that thing. I love it. I think Joel from or Cats Games Whatever sent me that thing. I love that controller. Anyway, Mighty Final Fight. That's probably my favorite beat 'em up on Nintendo now. I think it came around late in the Nintendo's life. I think it only has 2 or 3 on-screen enemies at once, maybe 2. And at first I didn't like it because I couldn't play it like the other Final Fights. Like, you have to be in there really close to throw them because they're so small, like with their big heads. But eventually I always pick Hagar, but I switched over to Guy, and that's the guy to be if you want to beat the game. Guy has the fast combos and all that. And it can be Guy, Cody, and Hagar. But it's a fun little beat 'em up on Nintendo. The last boss, they have fun little patterns that you have to memorize. And then what else? Okay, moving on to July 20th. Oh, this is probably one of my favorite beat 'em ups now, is Pirates of Dark Water on Super Nintendo. And that's based on a cartoon. I never really remember watching it much, but the cartoon looks cool. I want to watch now or show it to my girls. But the game is so good. It's a really solid beat 'em up, and the style, it sort of has a Golden Axe like fantasy look, and it plays like Final Fight or Streets of Rage. I love that. You walk in close to grab them and throw, like, but I think there's an actual throw button, so you walk in to grab them and you hit the throw button to toss them. You can take out the enemies, you can spread them out just like any other fighting game. And the first time I beat it, I didn't realize it had 2 punch buttons. I beat it the first time with only the light punch. There's like a jab, and then I didn't realize there was like a hard punch too. So some of those bosses took forever with just the light punch. So this one actually has two attack buttons and a throw button, because when you grab them, you don't just hit punch to throw them. You actually hit the throw button to throw them after you've grabbed them. So you could grab them and get in a couple little jabs and then throw them just like Final Fight. But it has 3 different buttons now, so you can do a heavy attack and a light attack. I think the heavy attack it was with your weapon. Yeah, I'm thinking it is like they have weapons they fight with. But a really cool fantasy look, and the music is really good. I really enjoy this. Really good, fun boss fights, and it looks really good. I'm saying it's really underrated gem. I wanted to go buy the game right away, but it's expensive, so I might buy the repro of that one as well to play it on my CRT, because I played the heck out of it with emulation. Pirates of Dark Water is really good. The next one I really enjoyed too. Oh, maybe as much as Pirates of Dark Water. I played it on the Switch as Super Nintendo services, the Peacekeepers, and I beat that on August 30th. The Peacekeepers. It's a fun beat 'em up, sort of in the style of Final Fight or Streets of Rage. It's made by Jalico, the same one that did Tough Enough that I talked about earlier. And it's in the series, the trilogy of beat 'em ups. The first one is Rival Turf, and then it's the Brawl Brothers, and then it's Peacekeepers. But the first one I played was Peacekeepers, and it's the best one. And it has multiple paths, just like Final Fight 3 and Fighting Force 64. So there's multiple paths you can go through, and there's multiple characters. You can be 4 or 5 different characters, and each of them sort of have a little story. And depending on what enemies you fight, like certain characters are connected to certain bosses, so they might have different dialogue. So like each character has a little bit different story and progress through the game a little bit differently. So it's really a different game, and it has a sort of a sci-fi feel too, like there's monsters and stuff. And the guy goes like Dragon Ball Z at the end, like he get like Gokhan or whatever his name is. Sorry, I'm not a Dragon Ball Z fan. But it sort of has like a 70s exploitation look about it. Something about the game. That's why I like it. Like a 70s or 80s like action movie look. And then the music, it has pretty cool music, but you can either have background effects selected in the options or the music. It has some like ambient sounds going around in each of the levels, but you can turn that off and put the music on. I guess it couldn't handle both at once. Maybe Sega Genesis could have, but so you can either have the music playing or like the ambient sounds playing, and it kind of feels eerie with just the ambient sounds on. It has some fun boss fights, and I was able to 1 credit this on hard, I think. I don't know, maybe 1 credit on normal, but I think maybe I lost 1 credit on hard. But really fun game. It plays just like Final Fight. It has some fun bosses, like I said. One of them, you fight the Steiner brothers in a wrestling ring. They're not called the Steiner brothers, but you can tell they're based on the Steiner brothers. It's 2 guys with wrestling singlets, and they're really big and buffed. And I think they both look like Rick Steiner. They're like, they have the headgear on, and they even do their move where the one guy picks you up and the other guy jumps off the ropes and bulldogs you. So they have like a Steiner brothers reference in there, which was cool. What else? Yeah, so Peacekeepers, really enjoyed that one. Recommend that game. I might order. There's a Jalico pack online that has all 3 of that series and Tough Enough on a cartridge. I think I might get that. September 1st, I beat the 2nd game in that series, which is Brawl Brothers. That one's more of the same. That one's really cool too. I was really getting into that one. Not too much to say different about Peacekeepers, but they're both solid games. Brawl Brothers is fun as heck. I almost had like flashbacks, like I was playing Streets of Rage. Like I thought Brawl Brothers was that good. And then one thing about Brawl Brothers, though, when you play it, go into the options and turn on Rage mode. That's an option that was in Peacekeepers, but if you don't have, like when you take a lot of damage, all of a sudden you'll go into the Rage mode. You kind of become invincible for a minute, and your attacks do a lot, and you move a lot faster. Kind of like Berserk mode. That's not turned on in the settings, so when you play Brawl Brothers, I suggest if you want to beat the game, go turn on the Rage mode. Otherwise, you don't get the Rage mode. It's super hard to beat it. I couldn't beat it without Rage mode. And then the last game I beat this year, September 5th. That's the last game I beat this whole year. After that, I didn't play any more games that year or beat any more. Was Battle Circuit on my little beat 'em up collection for Switch. It's the Capcom beat 'em up collection. It's called Battle Circuit Arcade, and it's a really cool. It's sort of a sci-fi beat 'em up. Another beat 'em up again. I'm not super proud about this one because it has unlimited continues, but I just wanted to share it because it's a fun game. It's kind of overlooked, like I never see it anywhere. Really high production value game, like really nice looking, like Ninja Turtles. And it's sci-fi. It kind of feels like a successor to Captain Commando or something. It's sci-fi, all kinds of goofy sci-fi Flash Gordon type enemies. You go up in space, and then you fight mechs and stuff, and guys that are riding inside of mechs. And the thing is about this game is it's a lot about collecting coins to buy new upgraded moves, which was cool. Like at the end of every level, you can use the coins you collect, you gather up to buy new moves or new combos or whatever. So there's a lot of cool new combos you can buy on it. But Battle Circuit's a fun one. I recommend that beat 'em up package you can get. I think it's available on all the newer systems. It has Final Fight and Knights of the Round and Captain Commando and Battle Circuit. So I recommend that one a lot. Anyway, that's it. I hate to end it so soon. I think I babbled on long enough about some of those games. So it's a good thing I stopped halfway through the year and I didn't beat any more after that. But those are all fun games. I recommend all of them, especially Sinking City and Hybrid Heaven for N64. Play that game if you're into RPGs or you like Metal Gear. Fun game. And remember when you play Hybrid Heaven, remember level grind. So when those enemies spawn, they come out of this little portal in the ground. Remember, always beat that guy, leave the room, come back, he'll spawn again, keep beating him and go into the room, coming back, beating him until that little portal is sealed, because that'll give you the most XP so you can level up more. And it's fun to play those little fighting matches, so I would just fight as much as you can in that game. Yeah, so Sinking City and Hybrid Heaven, I would say I recommend the most this year. And also highly recommend Wu Tang vs Shaolin. Support that guy that made that game. Go buy that on whatever system you have. And the Peacekeepers on Super Nintendo, as well as Pirates of Dark Water. So a lot of fun ones I played this year. Of course, everyone knows about old Capcom vs SNK 2 over here, so I'm sure everyone loves that. Anyway, guys, sorry this drug on so long. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye. Have a good year.